another fun hat tutorial, and today we are using some very fun colors. I absolutely love this yarn. It's a bit thicker, but also it has a gorgeous colorway depending on which colorway you get. So we'll be using two colors for this hat, and these are the Muse Aran weight yarns from We Crochet. So this is your neutral color. This is natural. Sometimes it's not on the same listing as these, but they do have it on their website. And all of this is my favorite fiber. This is 100% superwash merino wool, which is absolutely fantastic. So you will need to have at least one of each of these. Depending on what size you're making, you might need two of the colorway ones. And I have linked those in the pattern. So for the larger sizes, you'll want to get two of your base body color and one of the white accent. And I'm also going to see if I can make some pom-poms with this one to see how they look. If you don't want to make your own pom-poms, of course, you can always pick up faux fur ones on Amazon, and I linked to that in the pattern. For this hat, you will want to have a scissors to cut the ends. Stitch markers are always great. You'll probably only need one for this pattern, but it's a good idea to keep track where we're going to be working in rows and then in rounds, and then a yarn needle to weave in those ends. Now, when it comes to the hooks, I do like these dots hooks from We Crochet. They are so affordable and really comfortable. And we're going to be working the ribbing of this hat with the 4.5 millimeter, also known as the G+. And then the 5 millimeter, also known as the H hook, will be for the hat body. These hats work up pretty quick because they are a bit of a thicker yarn. This is one I've got worked up for the child size. I loved this pink colorway. It's so fun. So this is what I had left out of two hanks of the main color. Now, if you don't want to do the brim as long, you probably would only need one of these main colors for the child size. But if you want the double fold up brim that makes it like super cozy and super warm, which is what we want for these cold months, you'll need two. And then in the smaller baby sizes, like this one, you only need one of the accent color and one of the main color. But these colors are so fun to watch work up. It's just fun to use this style of yarn. I find it really visually stimulating. So today on camera, I am going to be using this color, and I have these colors listed within the pattern. But this is the Daring Hand Paint, and this is what I'm going to be using for the teen size on camera today. Now for this hat, my color A is the Daring Hand Paint in the Muse Aran, and then I'm using their Bear in the nice cream color that just doesn't have any dye on it. All the hats have a color A and a color B. I'll be using the color A as the colorful one, and the color B is this natural color. So for this size, I am going to make a slip knot and place that onto my hook. And then we will be chaining 23 for this brim. This is a fold over brim. If you don't want to fold over brim, you can adjust the height of this by doing less chains. And I also have instructions for about a 1-inch brim in the pattern. And in case I didn't mention this, I am using my 4.5 G+ hook right now for the brim. We will use the other size, the 5 millimeter for the body, but for the brim, I'm using the smaller one. So I'm going to tighten down that last chain, and in the back humps, because I like working in those back humps, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. If you are smart, I don't always do this, grab a stitch marker and mark that very first stitch of the row. You'll thank yourself when you're working back because you'll know exactly what stitch to work into when you get to the end of the next row. So I'm simply going to single crochet into each chain stitch across, which means at the end of this very first row, we will have a total of 22 stitches. Now, after the end of row 1, we are going to go ahead and turn our work. Oh gosh, I love working with this yarn. It's so pretty. And then we will chain 1. And this will be row 2, and row 2 will be the repeat for all the ribbing rows. So I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only for each stitch across. So all 22 stitches, or however many stitches that you are working, depending on your size, we will single crochet in the back loop only. And if you've never worked in the back loop, when we look at the top of our stitches from the previous row, we have these little V's, and if you were to enter through both of them, that's how we're going to work a regular single crochet. But we're going to skip the front loop and only work into this back loop, so only that back loop, and that's what helps create that ribbing style. So single crochet in each stitch across for row 2. And then at the end of row 2, you'll turn and you'll continue to repeat row 2 until we have a total of 72 rows, which magically, just like baking shows where they take something, put something in the oven and then take something right out of the oven, I have those done. So this is my 72 rows of ribbing. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then you can measure it. Now, here's the thing about ribbing. It can be different for everyone in terms of tension. Tension for ribbing is really, really hard to match. I'm finding after this many years of experience and listening to a lot of crocheters. Ribbing is also very stretchy, but everyone might have a little bit of a different stretch to it. The best thing you can do is measure your piece and see if it's the right size, but also is it the right size for you? Everyone's head is different, so this is a good time to put it around your head and see if it's right. You can even join it, which I'm going to show you on these next steps, and put it around your head to make sure, and if it's not, undo those slip stitches that joined it and do more or less rows. The main thing is to get it so that it has a negative ease. We want this to be tighter on our head because of that stretch. We don't want it to be too big, but we don't want it to be so tight that it's like leaving indents of the stitches on our head. So you want to get that just right. And so if you need to change your row count, that's okay. When we work the round along one edge after joining, you'll just want to make sure that you go to the stitch count of the pattern for the rest of that hat. Now that we have completed our 72 rows, I'm going to fold these ends together to match them up. And this is where we're going to do some seaming so that then we can work in the round. So we'll chain one, does not count as a stitch, it's just our turning chain. And I'm going to go through the first stitch of my current row and the first stitch of my first row and slip stitch those together. And then we're going to do that all the way down. So we're just slip stitching, stitch from the current row, stitch from the first row, and slip stitch together. I like to do it this way for these hats because when we flip them up, this is not the side that we will see. We will see the other side, and the other side looks fantastic. So I'm going to do that all the way down and then go to the next steps. Now that we have slip stitched all the way across, we can take a little check here and we can see that our other side looks fantastic with the way that that is joined. And now we're ready to go to the next part, which is working in the round. This is where we are going to change hook sizes, and we're going to go to the 5mm, which we will use for the rest of this hat. Now to start this round, have a stitch marker handy because it makes this much easier, but I'm going to chain one. That's just our starting chain. And then we will slip stitch along this edge, marking that first stitch, and we will be doing one stitch per edge row. So if you ended up with the 72 stitches for this ribbing, you're simply going to do one slip stitch per row all the way around and have 72 stitches. If you adjusted the ribbing and you've added more or less rows to it to adjust it to your custom hat size, then you're still going to do 72 slip stitches. They just won't be one stitch per row because you may need to adjust that if you've adjusted how many rows that you have done. So we will slip stitch 72 stitches all the way around and then come on back. Now that we have slip stitched all the way around, I'm going to move that stitch marker and slip stitch into the very first stitch of the round to join. Now I like to start my rounds, instead of doing a chain 2, I like to do it as a stacked single crochet. But if you prefer a chain 2 to represent the very first double crochet, that is totally fine. But to do a stacked single crochet, I'm going to go into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then I'm going to go back through the left bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and that completes the stacked single crochet. And that will be the height of a double crochet and look a little bit more like it on the front. I just like the look of it. So that's the first stitch in this round. For all the remaining stitches, and you'll notice I'm working in the back loops only, we will just double crochet all the way around in the back loop only of every slip stitch. I like doing it that way because it leaves a nice clean edge on the bottom here that defines it from the rest of the hat. I just think it looks really nice. You'll also notice, and you don't have to do this, this is personal preference, when I'm working in those back loops, I'm also working through the fabric on the back side. I just like the clean look of that. Instead of just working through the loop, I find it kind of makes some gaps. I'll just grab the fabric that's hanging out on the back side of my work as well. And so I will continue to double crochet in each stitch all the way around which means we will still have 72 stitches for round 1 of the body. I've worked all the way around and I'm on my last double crochet, and you can decide how you want to change colors here. A lot of times I'll change colors by grabbing the new color and yarning over on the last yarn over of the previous stitch, like here, and pulling through and then using my new color to join. That can work great. Or another option you can do to change to the color B is you can go ahead and use your color A to slip stitch to join. And then we're going to start the next round by doing a chain 1. We're going to turn our work, because while we're working in rounds, we're turning our work at the end of each round from now on. You can go ahead and join with the color B as your chain 1. Kind of tighten that down. Make sure that whatever color you're not using remains on the inside, the wrong side of the hat, so that it's not on the outside hanging out there, causing problems later. Now for the round 2, we're working with the color B, and we're going to go into the very first space. So this very first space before the first stitch of this round, we're going to go in between all of those stitches. So in between the stitches, we're not working into this first stitch where we normally would. We're going down here in between the stitches, and then we're going to single crochet. Then chain 2. And we're going to skip 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet in the space between the next double crochet stitches. And we're going to be repeating that around, chain 2. So skip 3 stitches, single crochet between the next double crochet stitches, and chain 2. We'll do that all the way around for round 2. Now after working all the way around, we have 3 double crochet stitches left, and we've chained 2. So we're going to skip those 3, and we are going to slip stitch to join at the end of this round. And then I'm going to turn my work. This is where we can also take the color B and drop it to the inside of the hat. And we're going to go ahead and pick up that color A again, because we're going to be working with that color A. We're going to chain 1, and I like to tighten down that previous chain. So now we're ready with our color A, and we're going to do a stacked single crochet into that chain 2 space, and then 2 more double crochets into that same space. Then we're going to go to the next space of the chain 2s and do 3 double crochets. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way around. So we'll go to the next chain 2 space and do 3 double crochet stitches. And now we're going to start to get on a groove with this pattern. So work round 3 all the way around, working 3 double crochets into each of those chain 2 spaces. And now we are ready for round 4, which is switching back to the color B. So I'm going to slip stitch to join, turn my work, and this is where I'm going to lift the color B strand from the inside of the work. We're just going to carry it up, which is nice. We don't have to cut our work at the end of each round. We're just going to carry the yarn that we aren't using up the inside of the hat. And now we're going to single crochet in that very first space, and then chain 2. So it's just a repeat of what we did with this color before, but this is much easier this time because we can see exactly the spaces that we should be working into between all those groups of stitches. So for round 4, we'll just single crochet and then chain 2, skipping the next group and working into the next space. Do that again all the way around. And none of this changes the stitch count for now. We're just staying at 72 stitches when we are working those double crochets, and the same amount of stitches when you count your chain spaces. So it's the same amount of stitches each round. Now at the end of round 4, we will join with a slip stitch and then turn our work. And now we're just going to be repeating rounds 3 through 4. So it's just rounds 3 through 4 that we'll repeat until we have a total of 10 rounds for this size. So here we are on round 11 for the size teen, and it's time for us to start decreasing. And this is going to be a very simple decrease round. Each one will be a little bit different, but we're going to decrease the top of this. If you don't want to decrease, you can go ahead and do through round 17 without decreasing and just bunch the top. It'll be like a lot more bunchy at the top. But if you want a rounded top, this is what we will be doing. So for round 11, we are going to start with our color A, and working into that chain space, we'll start with a stacked single crochet. And then we're going to do another double crochet into that chain space. And now we're going to move to the next chain space and do 2 double crochets. So we're just going to be working 2 double crochets into each chain space all the way around. And this will decrease our stitch count to 48 stitches at the end of round 11. Now for round 12, I've turned my work and we have joined with the color B. And for this round, we are going to start by doing a single crochet into the very first space, and then chain 1, skip 2 double crochets, and single crochet into the next space. So similar, but we're just removing one of those chains before working in between the sets of 2 double crochet stitches. So we will repeat this all the way around, and at the end of this round you will still have the same stitch count of 48 stitches. Now here we are at round 13 for this teen size, and for this round we are going to be working into that chain 1 space all the way around, but we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. We're going to be doing a double crochet 2 together in the chain space. So it's almost like we're going to take these stitches, work, and then double crochet them 2 together in the chain space. I know it sounds odd, but it looks better. It takes out some of the gaps between as we decrease. So to do this, we're going to start in this very first space, and we're actually doing a stacked single crochet double decrease for this area. So we will start by doing we're going to start our stacked single crochet. So we've done the first part of it, and now we're going to enter into that left bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. But now we're going to stop and we're going to do our second double crochet part of the decrease, where we yarn over, insert into that same space, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then we will finish by yarning over and pulling through the remaining 3 on the hook. And then we'll place a stitch marker if needed. Now working into the next space, we are going to do a double crochet 2 together in that space. So that will help this decrease, and we're making it look quite nice. So this helps to not have so much gaps between by doing a double crochet 2 together into each chain 1 space around. So we're working it into the same space, but it looks really nice. Now at the end of round 13, we will have a total of 24 stitches, and I'm going to turn my work, and we are going to be joining with the color B and chaining 1. Now the color B will just simply be a repeat of the previous round that we did. So we're going to start by doing a single crochet into that very first space, and then we will chain 1, and working into the next space, single crochet, chain 1. So single crochet between the stitches, those double crochet decreases, and chain 1. And we'll do that all the way around. And for this round, we will not be changing our stitch count. It will remain at 24 stitches all the way around. Now we can already see a really nice decrease happening at the top of this hat, and we are ready to do round 15. And we're going to be doing another decrease round. So I'll turn my work and join with the color A. Now for this round, we will be decreasing some spaces together. So we're going to start by working into the first space, starting our stacked single crochet, going back into that left bar, yarning over and pulling up a loop, but then we're going to stop and we're going to work into this next space for our decrease. So we yarn over, insert into the next space, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches, and place the marker if you need. And notice how this is decreasing those 2 spaces together. So we're going to be doing that all the way around. So here is a double crochet 2 together into those next 2 spaces. And that will look really nice as a decrease. So we will continue to double crochet 2 spaces together all the way around. And at the end of this round, we will have a total of 12 stitches. Now here we are for round 16 with the color B. And this round's going to feel a little bit funny with the stitch count because we're actually increasing our stitch count, but I did find that this looks much better for decreasing. So we're going to single crochet into that very first space and chain 1. And then we're going to single crochet into the next space between those stitches and chain 1. As you are working these decreases, make sure that you are working in the space between the 2 decreases and not into that decrease in between it. So we're working into the space between the decreases and single crocheting and chaining 1. So at the end of this round, including the chains, we will once again have 24 stitches. Now at the end of round 16, we will join with the slip stitch and then turn our work. And we can go ahead and fasten off the color B because we are done with it. And for now, I'm just going to tuck that into the inside of my hat to weave that in later, but I just want to get that strand out of the way. And then we're going to join with our color A, and this will be our last decrease round. We are going to be working in between the chain 1 spaces again to decrease the 2 spaces together. So we'll insert into that chain 1 space and start our stack single crochet. And then we're going to stop. We have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go into that next chain 1 space, and we'll complete that decrease. And then we'll go to the next 2 spaces and we're going to do a double crochet 2 together across those 2 spaces to join them together, working in the chain 1 space. Now at the end of this round, you will have a total of 6 stitches. Now at the end of round 17, we can go ahead and fasten off the color B. And the last thing we have to do for the part of the construction is to grab our yarn needle, and we're going to close the opening of this hat. So I didn't join yet because I like to do an invisible join for the last stitch where I enter into the first stitch of the round as if I were to crochet it, and then I go down the top center of the last stitch I worked, and that kind of creates a mock stitch that is a nice join. Now to join the last small circle at the top, so we still have a little bit of a hole, we are going to loop through the first loop, so the front loop only, of all of the remaining stitches around. And then once you have looped through all 6 of those, we can go ahead and pull our tail end tight and weave in those ends. And notice we still have our color B kind of sticking out over on the right hand side here, and we can go ahead and weave that in on the inside, pulling that so that it doesn't show. And so the next step is just to weave in all your ends and finalize your beautiful, colorful block stitch hat. Now, I love the colors of this yarn. There's so many different options to make this in. Here you see 5 hats in the 5 different sizes, but there's actually 7 sizes to the pattern. So there will be a newborn one here and an adult large on the other side that I'm still working on, but I will have photos of those soon to show you. This hat is super fun, super cozy, super warm, in the most gorgeous yarn ever. It's so luxurious, especially in that merino wool, and will keep you warm during those cooler months. Please hit that subscribe button and come back for some more fun projects soon.